So today's going to be a little bit different. I know the name of the channel is Sawdust and Cornbread, but I make a whole lot more sawdust than I do food. That's because cooking is not my favorite. I make excellent cornbread and a whole lot of sawdust. My husband does most of the cooking in the house. But I did manage to muster up the courage to make this adorable chicken cake for my sister's birthday. I didn't have a template or special pans or anything. I just used what I had to make what I want. And today I want to share with you how I created this cake. Hey everybody, welcome back to Sawdust and Cornbread. I'm Laura Lee. If you are a first-time guest on my channel today, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I try to put out new content every week. If you're one of those people that's just give me the facts, I want to get right to work, you might want to skip to this time signature up here where I begin assembling the cake. That way you can skip through all of the drama. Otherwise, feel free to laugh with me, at me, critique away. I can use all the help I can get. I am not the best in the kitchen. So here's making a chicken cake. I began the project cheating right from the get-go. I prepared 2 boxed cake mix. I think it was vanilla Betty Crocker white cake mix. And I baked that into 12 cupcakes, 1 8-inch round, and then 1 small loaf pan. So that's going to be the basis for the cake. Next, I had some sweetened coconut, so I poured that out on a baking pan on some parchment paper and spread that out nice and evenly. And what we're going to do is bake this, or actually I broiled it on low in the oven. Don't judge my dirty oven, it's been busy. But I left the oven propped open just a little bit so I could watch it through the top and it wouldn't get scorched. Again, I had the broiler set on low and you can see where it begins to brown around the edges and then it toasts up really nicely. This is going to be a base for the nest that the little chicken is sitting on. So I got that out of the oven and cooled it and set it aside for later. Next, it was time to get these baked cakes out of the pans, and this is where I could use your help. I promise I used Crisco and I dusted with flour and I put them in there, and still I ended up having to run a knife around the edge. I know that's a big no-no for your pans, before it would even budge. And honestly, even after I ran that knife around the edge, it still was good and stuck in that pan. So I ended up prying it out with a little plastic spatula that I have, and then once I eased it out, it made its way out, not unscathed. Now I put just a thin coat of vanilla icing on there. It's the Duncan Hines vanilla flavor, just to put a coat on there to seal it up. And then it was time to get this stubborn loaf pan to release, and I got that out pretty well unharmed. And I was trying to decide the best place to put the head, and I wanted to build up from the shoulders up, so I decided to go with one of the little cupcakes. And in order to make that level, I went ahead and took a serrated knife and cut a little level section toward the front for that to rest on. Once I decided where that was going to go, I proceeded in icing that cut piece of loaf pan bread that I had, or loaf pan cake that I had prepared. And once I got it all covered with icing, I realized this would make a really cute truck if somebody wanted to make a truck. I transferred it on, and wouldn't it be great if it stayed in its shape? But unfortunately, since the round base that I had built up was not even, it ended up splitting there on the end. You can see how the end is falling down. But all is not lost. I went ahead and proceeded with trying to figure out how I was going to build up these little shoulders to support the little chicken head. Added a little bit of icing and decided that I was going to stack these up, but I wasn't sure whether to go upside down or right side up. I ended up going upside down, but I sliced that muffin top off just to make it a little more level, and then sealed that second layer for the shoulders, or the base of the neck with a good layer of icing. Now's the fun part. You know how you make cake pops? You just mix up some already prepared cake with some icing. So I did that and squished it up into a ball to make the little round head. So basically this is a cake pop head that I'm doing here, and it's really hard not to make it fall off, so I'll show you a little trick for that in a minute. Next, it was time to carve out the tail, so I just cut a little diagonal piece off of each side of the rear of the cake just to make it look a little bit more like a chicken tail, and we're going to fluff that up in a little bit. As luck would have it, those pieces, those diagonal pieces I cut off, fit perfectly in those splits, and it actually made a nice little hump for the base of the wing. So I just slid that right in, iced it over, and it's as if I had never split the cake. Now I started putting my little base of toasted coconut around the bottom layer to make it look like a nest. And I said I was going to show you a trick for the head to get it to stick on there. I ended up making another head, and I tacked it in place with 3 toothpicks. Now I can ice it without heads rolling. It worked a whole lot better. It's still kind of delicate, so I went nice and light with the icing, and you just kind of make a mummy chicken for now. Forgot to mention I did sprinkle white coconut over the cake. Once my mummy head was done, I made some simple fondant by adding some white powdered sugar to the residue that was left of the icing mix, or the pre-made icing. It was probably 2 tablespoons of icing and maybe 3 tablespoons of white powdered sugar. Then I added red food coloring. I rolled that around in my hands, and then I could form the shape of the comb for the little chicken's head. And it's just like playing with Play-Doh. I pulled off little pieces of that cheap, simple fondant that I had made to create the red on the chicken's face, and you can do this however you want. I am more of a duck person than a chicken person, so you'll probably do a better job than me. For the beak, I chose to use little slivered almond pieces, and they turned out so cute. It made the best little beak. So I just stuck that into place, and I did cheat. I bought a whole little box of pre-made eyeballs and just stuck them on there. And here you see the finished product after I worked around and just kind of used my fingers to work everything in. I will say this was kind of a taxing project. It did test my patience. However, keep in mind, I'm not a big baker. I'm not a huge person for cooking meals or things of that matter, but I do like projects. This was a fun one-time project, and you guys out there that bake regularly, I can't wait to see what you do. I'm sure that you will come up with a masterpiece from this simple little outline that I came up with. So be sure, once you make those cakes, to share them. Comment below. I want to see the pictures. I can't wait to see what you do. God bless, and I will see you next time. And that's normally where the video would stop. But if you're like me, you'd like to see the get to the business version of this. So here it is, simple, fast, and no fuss, how to make a chicken cake. 2 boxes of white cake mix make 12 cupcakes, 1/8-inch round, and 1 small loaf. Toast 1/2 cup of coconut in your oven on low broil, then ice the bottom 8-inch round. Cut a wedge out of your loaf, then ice that and place it on top of the iced round. Place 1 cupcake upside down and ice that on top of the wedge that you cut out. Cut off the top of another cupcake, place that upside down on top of the other cupcake, and ice that. Mix up your icing and cake mix to make a round head. Now cut the angled tail off of the back of the loaf to create the tail. Use those wedges to fill in the space and make the base of the wings on each side of your chicken cake. Now ice that smooth with a thin layer of icing and spread your toasted coconut around the base layer to make the nest. Now tack on your chicken head using 3 toothpicks and then ice that smooth with white vanilla icing. Spread your coconut all over the cake, and now you're ready to start on the red parts. Mix some food coloring in fondant, made by mixing icing residue with powdered sugar, and then roll that around and form it into the comb that goes on top of the chicken head, as well as all of the red parts for the face, however you desire to design your chicken. Now take 2 almond slivers, pinch those together and poke them in the front for the perfect cute little beak. Add your eyeballs, and voila, you have the perfect little chicken coconut cake for your enjoyment. Bye-bye.